noticed it before. Okay, this is from Ant. Okay, 7k Metalworx, and every time I can give him a plug, I give him a plug.
7k Metalworx,
because it's freaking wicked. All right, it's my brain. It's simple. It does what it needs to do at 90 degrees. But if your platen was rigid at 90 degrees, you can angle this thing, and you can change the wing nuts at the back. I've locked it at 90, and I angle my platen. That's the way I simply do it. Okay, fine. But the range of holes allows me to have different depths of blade, and it's so big on my big platen, it makes a difference, because if I got a handle here, the blade stuck out that way, like the Queen Mary, like going to the end of the street, it's got the weight, so that's not happening. Now, Ant put an interest into one of my blades, and then we got talking, as you do, and he was thinking about something new. So there's a bit of a backwards and forwards going on here. So he sent me this. Let's open it. So if you notice the post office, okay, that's where I live. Let's send it to somewhere else. As we know, in the UK it's illegal to possess a knife. Oh dear, sending Gregory Peck, eh? Right, how can we get into that? School time, innit? 3 o'clock. We took it then, and he got my sweets, so we hit him with the cricket. Cricket there. I like shiny and metal. You've noticed, haven't you? So, advertiser. Normally when you see an advert for bathrooms and showers, you have some nice pretty girl in it. It's a blue. Not impressed. Yeah, he's obviously making me feel very guilty, because it's all business cardy and printed out literature. So, pull my finger out. Look at the bubble wrap on this. Good dancing a jig. Good grief. This one weighs an absolute ton. Bits and bobs. I wonder if I can sneak them to Jasmine, the letter. Sweet. What do you say to Ant?
Thank you.
Lovely. You like sweets, don't you? Shame they're mine.
No!
It's just terrible. So, you get to know Wessex Blades after a while. A few things I look at and I go, it's very nice, but it's just not badass enough. Yeah? Like I'm working on lever tooling. You know, the carving. I don't do the flowers, I don't do the leaves, because it's not badass. Keep your eye on that, like 4 weeks. It's coming. There we go. First off, I hope you like the look of the new jig. Show you in a minute. It's mine to savour. It's coming a fair way since the version you currently have. Lost it, there it is. So, reminder, the V1. Pulse jet engines, don't you remember? Alright, so the V1. All the jigs in the V2 have the same large and small fixing pattern. So what the evolution of it was these were M6 threaded. So obviously he's clearance sold to a 5, I imagine, and then he's tapped it into a 6 threaded. So you're passing the bolt into the threads in order to lock things up. But it turns out that with feedback from people, they quite liked a clearance hole at 6, the 6 bar went through, and then you tightened it up quick on wing nuts because it was quicker than meddling with an Allen bolt for the heads. But anyway, I've always got on great with threaded. Now, of course, the advantage of having a clearance hole is you never wear out a thread on this, but there's a hell of a lot of holes. I mean, this could last the life of the jig. I mean, if you get 5 years out of one of these things, you know, I've had this over a year. It's just never really missed a beat. I grind the head of the bolt off, just put another bolt on. So, as I say, those are the sort of evolutions of how it's gone. Each is made from 5mm 304 stainless, CAD designed and water jet cut, high quality stainless hinges, sealed pivot bearing to keep the moving parts moving. Blooming heck, it's a bit high tech. All A2 stainless bolts and nuts, and no rust ever. Plus now a choice of red, blue, orange, gold and purple for the anodized parts, and he's got me manly blue. Love it. Available in 140 or 200. Well, I'm a man, and my blade's a beastie, so I got a big version. Metric or uniform fitting and nut and bolt. Okay, here it comes. The face plate, okay, is now non-threaded. The standard can be threads if customer wants. Yours is half and half, because that's the way I am. Okay, the optional new plate, which we're going to call a jig sink, can be supplied or the order or retrofit later. It will fit all jigs from now on as of late November 15, and it's made from 10mm 6082 T6 alloy. So Terminator theme, ready? So that was the old version, version 1. Now we'll call version 2 jig sink version. It looks badass. So you have, how thick is that plate? 10mm aluminium clearance holes, countersunk, threaded in with 2 gorgeous fittings there. So that fit in there and that fit in there is tapped into all them holes on the back, so you get a range of what you're going to do. The clearance holes, this is we're all like chatting over emails about all of this, so there is a plethora of opportunities to marry up your, if you're only doing tiny little blades. Now we've only, on this with me and Anne, we've only aligned the 6s, so the 6s are in the same position as the 6s on the back, but there are the options of the 4s there as well, so smaller holes, which obviously you can see the plate at the back. I'm never going to use 4s, I want 6mm. So the idea being is that my 6mm hex head bolts just pass straight through the heatsink section. I'll have to get some long ones, but it should be fine because they're sticking out the back anyway. So now they go pass through there and into there. Now steel, when it gets warm, stays warm. It holds the heat quite nicely. But the reason that you can cut steel with an oxy torch is if you heat that there on steel and you cut through, the heat stays there, it doesn't disappear. Okay, you get copper, if you heat this end up, if it was copper, the heat just goes, okay, it really conducts it away. Aluminium distributes the heat far quicker than steel will. Okay, but you've got all this extra mass now, okay, to dissipate heat even more, plus there's more holes anyway which fill it with water when I go ding. So in terms of heat distortion, this is going to completely eliminate it. Plus I've got grab handles on mine now, because the original version I had, okay, didn't have the grab handles, and I've been using this one. I've just been grabbing all of that, and I stick my finger between that, and I just push it along with that. What I'd like is mass. Okay, so I can grab all of that and move it, and the difference when I add a blade on is going to make less difference now, because this is weighing what is weighing, and then add a blade on. Add the blade onto the weight of the old one makes a bigger difference. Badass. So let's get using it, give you my ideas on how it's going, but I can foresee this just kicking butt, seriously. And those two big fittings there, countersink, Allen head bolted in, means obviously that's going to scratch up a little bit more readily than steel, but it's a retrofit item. So the version 2 jig sink, okay, there's your jig, and there's a big old heat sink on there as well. I'm wondering whether the excess weight will cut down on judder as well. Anyway, and it's freaking badass. Oh, I mean, just look at this section of that. Look at the L there. What's that? 2.83 mil. Kick ass. I love it. Freaking kick ass. So first one up on the door of fame, 7k Metalworx logo. There's my dear guys. Needs filling. There's the first one. So included are a range of fittings, and the ones I'm going to plumb for, this big huge wing nut washer and Allen head cheese-headed bolt thing. Ooh, so I'm going to play with that, and obviously for those who are happy having fives, threading the tapped and all the rest of it, there's fittings for that, and replacement big countersinks for the actual plate, which is there. So straight off the bat, once I've mounted it up, this is the advantage of all that weight. There is no way that is going to drop. There's a lot of weight here. When I've got a long blade and it's increasing in size, it goes up, having a big fat heavy jig, big long platen, starting here, going up and off. There it is. Right, I can now move that along to ensure that it stays on more. The other advantage, which is manly, previous Allen head bolt key thing, the one I'm using now, it's like just an extra size up, just makes it more manly. Just beast. So undo. Nothing like a spindly tool. Yeah. Slide it on over there. Madam. And this is one of those ball-ended Lidl's ones, so I'm able to just pivot like that. Yeah. And go long ways. It just happens. And back on the magnet. So now I can check it doesn't run off the end. So all those grinder makers out there, big stage, big work stage. I'm going there, I'm going up, I'm still on the work and the blade's off. So when I do Goloks, I need to have it even further over to the side, but at the moment that's working. see what it's like in action. Nothing like a bit of heavy metal action. Straight away, the extra weight when I'm going along the end, I've knocked off the 90 degrees and I'm putting the first just run as I'm doing the bevel. I'm going along now, and as the jig is running off the end of the thing, occasionally on a blade this big, the previous jig, that would start happening, and I've got to keep the attitude to the belt correct. Just didn't move, not at all. It's so heavy, so dense, it's so smooth. It's like having, you know, if you had a sliding table on a grinder, and you put the blank in and the wheels like that, and you're just running it along on the carriage, or on a table saw when you got the sliding table on the end, and that weighs 30 kilograms because it's cast iron. That's what it feels like. It's heavy and it's smooth. It doesn't rattle over the lumps and bumps and the grit. It's heavier. It just goes across. Love it. It's heavy. Big and heavy. That's the way you want it. So, I'm using a completely different jig. I haven't done a big blade in a few days. Easy peasy. And the handle's warm, but the alley's cold, because as soon as any heat goes in there, this thing's trying to pull it out. At the moment, it's not going to go anywhere, because I've got paper and I haven't even begun to dunk it into the water. We'll see how it goes with heat sink when I get deeper in it. But anyway, first impressions. Right, come back in a bit. Another benefit, the extra mass. Leaving the jig on the stage with the machine running, if you get the machine toggles on, start less affected by weight. incidental note, Andy Young of Tesco's, those gloves you got from Dicky Workwear, they're brilliant. What I found is when I use them on grinding, what you thought this morning, it's the sparks on the back of your hands I'm saving. The sparks are flying over, but they're not so thick I can't feel the heat of the blade. I can feel the warmth of the blade on my fingers and the heat. So as soon as I appreciate it's getting warm, I can dunk it, so I'm not getting an isolation from the heat of the blade, but my hands is pretty, well, apart from the dye of the leather, but my hands are pretty clean and I haven't got any of that burnt, singed result. But back to the jig. So there's me playing first time. Great. The bits I like about it straight off the bat, it's definitely the fact that the sockets are using a bigger Allen key. It's just more feel because the actual Allen key length is longer, so it's the size up. So if we disconnect that now, I'm only using 2 fixings because it's got some fibre back washers which so far are working out fine. I may end up getting some other fittings at some point, and I'll let you know how I evolve with that. But the fact that I've got this monstrous great set of, it's great. So Glasgow Mike, Cortez has made a start. Very nice, isn't that? I want one back. Moving on, straight up with WD in a minute. So, like the fact that that's great. I've changed the way of handling it on top. I was being the old grr man thing, caveman, but of course now, my hands, I can grab that, jam my finger in there, hold that, whilst I'm controlling the blade the other end. So I'm actually holding it. Pinky finger hangs onto the standard knurled plastic top thing, like that. I'm using the nut there as another sort of friction point. Thumb goes over the centre and I'm hanging onto it like that. I'm hanging onto the blade like that. So I hold onto the whole assembly. The thumb comes like that, the palm of my hand goes there. I've got hold of it. It's in the bucket. It's back out. Wiping it down, checking it, back on. Now, I'm still a bit of a hefty bugger, so not everybody will like it this big, but the fact that I'm doing 90% of what I do is bushcraft blade, which is bigger than a woodlore. My Danelaw Boudica bushcraft blades aren't the size they are like a woodlore is. Mine are bigger, they're deeper, so I don't really do a woodlore size blank. That's my fine law. I haven't done very many. There's the Merlin, which is small, but the majority of my stuff is bigger than a woodlore. I appreciate something big to offset the weight as it's poking out the end, because you don't want to be grinding, I don't want to be grinding a short dumpy blade against a bevel when I could be grinding off the heads of the bolts. That makes sense.
Here's a gentleman with a cup of coffee, tea, cocoa, hot cow poo.
Coffee.
Hot cow poo usually works. So yes, I'll have a tea break in a minute.
Hey, little girl.
How was your smeg day?
Meh.
Her Friday's smegged. Science, maths, English, geography, drama, as we call it. Smegged. Corrupting my young ones. Yep. So yeah, big, beefy, butch, manly, everything a Wessex Blades should be. This beast. Love the weight as it slides. Again, it's the carriage, the movement. It feels nice. There's no chatter. And these belts aren't the nicest belts in the world. They're only Zerk belts. The Thor is a big, heavy sort of machine, and the fact that there big blade goes on the end as I'm coming along, there's none of that happening. You know, as the blade is way past the end of the jig and the belt is pulling down on it, there's none of that really happening. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But I'm strong enough just to hang on to it wrongly. That's how you're supposed to do it, Williams. No, I'll do it like this. That's just the way I am. But to be quite frank, Mr. Ant, Mr. Hart, Mr. Ant, Mr. 7k Metalworx, it's a beast. If I could put it into the realms of evolution of machines, that was a GPZ 900. Classic, big, heavy, super motor, a bit skinny in places, frame, etc. Moving up to this one, you've missed out the 1000 RX. That's a ZX10, which even now, 20 years after they come out, that's an animal of a motorbike. Okay, so it's a luxury sports tourer of a blade jig. See any analogies? I like analogies. It's a ZX10. It's brilliant. Well, that's got from Wessex Blades with, where's the business card? Easy. And we'll fade to that. El Cortez. El Cortello Cortez. You know you want one. Well, Mike's getting it. It's tough.